This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. The U.S. is likely on the verge of a number of foreign policy changes. Former CIA Director Mike Pompeo begins his Senate confirmation hearings today for Secretary of State. And as Heather Sells reports, he's different from his predecessor, Rex Tillerson.
Pompeo is making it clear the U.S. will be taking a strong stand against Russia. As he faces questions over the Iran nuclear deal, North Korea and Syria, Pompeo will also let senators know that he'll strengthen the State Department and reassert its role as a major player in U.S. national security. It's a big contrast with his predecessor, Rex Tillerson, who approved massive budget cuts at state and left scores of top positions empty. He will also leave no doubt about his tough stance on some of the most challenging relationships the U.S. has. Pompeo will tell senators that years of a soft U.S. policy towards Russia are over. Just days after a suspect chemical attack in Syria, he'll speak on military action there and chastise Syria's ally, Russia, calling it a danger to our country. But at the same time, he'll also emphasize that diplomacy with Moscow must continue. His take on foreign affairs closely aligns with the administration.
Russia holds some responsibility in the fact that they guaranteed that Syria wouldn't use chemical weapons again, and they did.
Pompeo is close with the president, who has asked to get his intelligence briefings personally from Pompeo several times a week. Pompeo's hearing comes as foreign policy challenges continue to mount for the U.S. Not only are tensions spiraling with Russia over Syria, there's also great concern about trade with China and the planned summit with the leader of North Korea. Pompeo is expected to bolster the president on the subject of North Korea, telling senators the president isn't one to play games at the negotiating table. But Pompeo will stress America's duty to lead, a contrast with the president's moves to put America first. Democratic senators on the Foreign Relations Committee have clearly signaled their concerns with Pompeo.
Some of the positions he's taken in the past, I think, would be challenging in the world to try to explain. So he's going to have to explain it before the committee.
It's not at all clear that Pompeo has the votes he needs to make it out of the Foreign Relations Committee. Most Democrats have already said they will not support Pompeo, and Republican Senator Rand Paul has also said he's a no. But Pompeo could still be approved by the full Senate, making him likely to be the next Secretary of State. Heather Sells, CBN News.
And here now some of the other big headlines we're following for you in the CBN newsroom. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg continued answering questions from Congress Wednesday. House lawmakers asked him about user data, privacy settings, and whether the company is biased against conservatives. Congress also suggested regulating the social media giant. Zuckerberg says new artificial intelligence tools will help policing certain content. The alleged gunman who killed 17 people at a Florida high school now wants to give an inheritance to the victims. Nicholas Cruz could receive up to $800,000 from his mother's estate. The 19-year-old says he does not want the money, but instead wants to donate it to an organization that could help bring healing to the community. A military plane crashed in Algeria Wednesday, killing 257 people. The crash is being called the worst aviation disaster in North Africa's history. There is no official report of survivors. You can read more on these stories throughout the day at cbnnews.com. This week's House Speaker Paul Ryan announced his plans to retire at the end of this year, saying he wants to return to Wisconsin and spend more time with his family. Abigail Robertson brings us more on how Capitol Hill is reacting to that news.
After 20 years, Speaker Ryan surprised the political world with his decision to leave Washington in January. In the end, the main reason for his departure came down to his wife and 3 teenage kids.
What I realize is, if I am here for one more term, my kids will only have ever known me as a weekend dad. I just can't let that happen.
Ryan, who lost his dad when he was 16, told CBN News earlier this year he calls his kids each night he's away to pray with them before they go to bed.
I could not do my job as a husband, as a father, as Speaker of the House without my faith. It is indispensable. It's an integral part of my life. I start my day in prayer. I end my day in prayer.
Ryan reluctantly became Speaker in 2015 after colleagues convinced him he could unite the party and move their legislative agenda forward. Looking back, Ryan's glad he's accepted the responsibility and sees tax reform and rebuilding the military as his biggest achievements.
I am proud of what this conference has achieved, and I believe its future is bright.
Still, many colleagues on the Hill will find it hard to say goodbye.
He's going to be missed. He's a great leader, but he's going to work hard until the very, very end.
Now Republicans face challenging midterm elections, uncertain if they'll hold the majority. But Congressman Robert Pittenger tells CBN News he feels good about Ryan's potential replacements.
Well, we have some good folks out there in our leadership. Just had Kevin McCarthy in my district yesterday. He is remarkable. Steve Scalise is remarkable. Patrick McHenry is my colleague from North Carolina. These are great folks. We're in good hands.
Speaker Ryan says he plans to finish strong in Washington and that he will not leave until his current term has ended. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
The governor of California has agreed to send National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border at President Donald Trump's request. But he made it clear they will be focusing on combating drug crime, not immigration. Governor Jerry Brown promised 400 troops, but says that he'll be stationing them not just at the border, but along the coast or elsewhere statewide. Critics are not happy with this decision, saying Brown sending troops just boosted President Trump's agenda. Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and a new study reveals a gap in knowledge among Americans. A Jewish interest group conducted the study that reveals 45% of adults are not able to name a concentration camp or ghetto. 41% did not know what Auschwitz was and when they were asked, and 11% had never heard of the Holocaust at all. 1% denied the Holocaust happening altogether. However, 93% did say Americans should learn more about the event in school, and more than half believe it could happen again right here in America. Coming up here on CBN NewsWatch, allergy season is upon us. We're going to show you how to ditch the antihistamines and fight your runny nose the natural way. It's that time of year, allergy season soon in full swing, and drug companies want to help to the tune of $15 billion a year. But many allergy sufferers are tired of that expensive cost and the side effects of the drugs. As Lori Johnson reports, they want a more natural alternative.
If you sneeze a lot, feel stuffed up, and have itchy eyes, you're probably allergic to something. Usually you reach for an antihistamine, but according to Dr. Suzanne Bennett, allergy drugs can create a whole new set of problems.
If you take an antihistamine, you're going to get really tired. If you're a child, actually, it can be the opposite. You get really hyper. Can't sleep. I mean, there's so many different side effects.
Like raising your blood pressure or causing urinary problems. That's why for 25 years, Dr. Bennett's helped her allergy patients the natural way with treatments like vitamin C, quercetin, and pine bark extract, which have no side effects. She also recommends trying to keep allergens out of your body. We're constantly bombarded with things we might be allergic to, from things in our diet to what we breathe. But the more of these allergens we can get out of our lives, the better equipped we'll be to handle the ones we can't. In her new book, The 7-Day Allergy Makeover, Dr. Bennett explains how to figure out your allergies and reduce your overall toxic load.
That's easy stuff. It really is. You just got to do it one by one. It's much easier than you think.
For example, many patients are surprised to find what they thought was a pollen allergy turned out to be an allergy to something else.
And I always look at nutrition as our #1 way to get rid of allergies. And you're going to say, well, I've got nasal allergy, so what does having something to eat have anything to do with my nose? Some people don't realize that they might be eating, let's say, a peanut butter sandwich, and then they start getting a runny nose, right? Or a little tickle in their throat and start to have that postnasal drip. Well, they don't realize it's from the peanut butter and jelly,
There are 6 main food allergies. Dr. Bennett instructs patients to give them up one at a time for 2 weeks and see if they feel better. They start with dairy, then gluten, sugar, peanuts, eggs, and mold. Food molds are fungi like blue cheese, mushrooms, and yeast. Also, many bagged foods can contain mold.
Also, dried fruits can be very fungally. Granolas that are in packaged items, chips, as well as packaged potato chips, corn chips, tortilla chips, anything that comes in a bag, wrapper, because mold can start growing in it. And that could be a big problem.
Sometimes we see mold on produce, but often mold is too small to see. Get rid of it by mixing water and vitamin C powder, then soaking your produce in the mixture for 10 minutes and drying it.
After you deal with the allergens in your diet, focus on the ones in your home.
Some people mistake seasonal allergies for allergies to dust mites, which are microscopic bugs that feed on our dead skin, which is all over our bed, sofa, carpet, even our kids' stuffed animals. A quick fix is washing sheets in hot water each week, putting dust mite covers on pillows and mattresses, while also frequently vacuuming and dusting. Other indoor allergens include bathroom mold and pet dander.
You want to take your pets, your loving animals out of your bed, because that also is a slew of allergenic antigens that will cause allergic reactions and respiratory issues.
While we can't do much about pollen, we can try to keep it out of our homes by closing windows, removing pollen-covered shoes and clothes, and washing the pollen out of our hair. An air purifier can capture what we miss.
Use a HEPA filter with a carbon filtration system. That combination is the best to clean the air inside.
Also, regularly replace your air filters and have your air ducts professionally cleaned once a year.
When you do that, you can get all the mold, dust mites, pollen, anything that collects in the vents, you're going to remove as well.
We all know sneezing and congestion point to allergies, but you may not know allergy symptoms can also include headaches, digestive problems, even anxiety and trouble sleeping.
3-year-old Jackson's allergies caused severe skin irritation.
It was terrible. I mean, he just was in so much discomfort, and Jackson would rub his face so raw that he would be bleeding and infected.
Dr. Bennett figured out the source of Jackson's allergies, and now he's fine.
We don't do dairy for him. We don't do gluten. And we stay away from soy and nuts because they also irritate him. We've also put air filters in our home, which has been really helpful for his seasonal allergies.
So before you medicate allergy symptoms, consider getting to the root of the problem. You might end your allergies altogether or become better equipped to fight the ones that remain. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Still ahead, we're sitting down with Pastor Rich Wilkerson. He's talking about his new project and why Jesus cares more about relationship than perfection. Pastor Rich Wilkerson is sometimes called Kanye West's pastor because he performed the wedding ceremony for Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. But of course, he's much more than that. He's a husband, a new father, a pastor, and an author whose latest book is called Friends of Sinners, Why Jesus Cares More About Relationship Than Perfection. And we're sitting down with him to talk more about that project in this week's Studio 5 interview.
Jesus is the friend of sinners. He came to seek and save the lost. I want my son to grow up knowing this love, knowing this Jesus. No matter what life brings his way, no matter what mistakes he makes or what trouble he endures, Jesus will be there. He's my friend. He's your friend. And his love will see us through.
So you're a proud new dad. Can you share what that journey's been like for you and your wife?
It's honestly been the best journey ever. My wife and I have been married now for 11 years, and 8 years ago, we found out that it was going to be pretty challenging for us to have kids. And so we began the journey of infertility and meeting with doctors and praying with friends. But after a long 8 years of waiting, God gave us our miracle son, Wyatt Wesley Wilkerson. It's just been a game changer. I think it gives you a lot of grace for your parents. I think there's been a newfound love in my heart for my mom and dad, just the idea that they cared for me in that regard and that they love me like that. I think it's a new love for my wife and I, going, let's build the home that we want him to grow up in. Let's build him a home that he loves the culture of it. Of course, that gives you a newfound love for God. It's been an incredible journey.
Now, this next question comes from a bit of personal jealousy. I follow you on social media, and I noticed that you are friends with one of my favorite singers of all time, Maxwell.
The only thing I want to throw is a fistful of tears.
Can you share a little bit about that friendship? Are you his pastor? What happened? How'd this develop?
I met Maxwell many years ago in Miami, and we just struck up a friendship. We've just kind of maintained being friends. He's a good dude, and we talk for sure about God and things of that nature, but he's just a fun guy, a very talented guy, one of the greatest singers of all time. And if you're married, you should have some Maxwell probably in your music playlist somewhere.
Now let's get to the book. Friend of Sinners. What inspired this?
This book, the reason why I wrote this book was because I think there's a lot of questions out there about people and God's heart towards people. And I think that we live in a world that it's very polarizing. I just still have this belief that if I can get people to sit down and have dinner together, we could solve a lot of problems. And so I think this book is a cry for us to hear the heart of God, that God is a God that's a relational God, that he came for friendship with all of us, that he is perfect, he is spotless, he is sinless, and yet he chose to come and associate himself with us. I remember a couple of years ago, I took a photo with somebody who was famous and said congrats or something, I can't remember what it was, on Instagram, and just the outrage from people. How dare you pick a photo, and how dare you be with this person? And I remember one in particular said, how can you associate with someone like that? And it's like such an easy reply, because Jesus chooses to associate himself with me. Like, I am that guy next to Jesus, and all of us are.
So what message do you have for those critical Christians?
Well, I think that people have to have convictions and standards, and I think that you do need to be serious about your convictions and standards, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I just think we've got to be careful that when we project our convictions and standards upon people, and then I think it's silly for us to be upset with people we don't even know, that don't even believe like we believe. I think in this day and age right now, we just go, oh, if I see you from Instagram, that gives me an opportunity to tell you what you're doing right or wrong. I just don't think it's going to get anywhere. I think it's kind of just pointless, mindless chatter. And so for me, I think I would speak to any critical Christian out there, just saying, what's your motive? What's your intention? What do you think you're accomplishing from what you're doing? And I think once you start to have a relationship with maybe some of these people, you start to see another side of them, and they need His grace just as much as I need grace. And if every part of my life was documented, if every mistake I ever made was put on the front cover of a magazine, you know what I mean? Maybe there might be some more stuff to say about me as well. I think that we've all got shortcomings. By the way, the compliments can be just as treacherous to a person as the criticism. When we're looking for value from people, it's going to be scary, because people are going to fail us.
So why does Jesus care more about relationship than perfection?
Jesus cares more about relationship than perfection, because none of us could ever on our best day be perfect. So he actually came to get into a relationship with us, that his perfection would get on our life, not because we've attained it or done anything, but because of his grace, his mercy. He came for the sick, which is all of us, but only those of us that will be saved are those that recognize that we're sick. Hey, I need a doctor. There's a lot of people today that live their life going, I'm good. That's in the church and outside the church. I'm good. And they're missing Jesus' message. No, you're not good. You have to recognize that you are imperfect, that you're far from perfect, that you are a sinner, and that sin hasn't made you bad. Sin, by definition, has rendered us dead. And what does Christ come for? He came to give us life, and life more abundantly. I'm imperfect, yet God in His grace came for me, befriended me, loved me while I was still a sinner, loved me when I didn't know His name, chose me, associated Himself with me, died for me. That's the whole point of the gospel, and I think we miss it. And so sin's not making me, it's not making me bad, it's making me dead. And people that are alive, they live on mission, they live full of joy, they live fully focused, they live grateful lives because they know all that they were saved from. They don't have time to judge and criticize people. They're so thankful for all that God did in their life, they want to share it.
The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. Aren't you grateful that Jesus is indeed a friend of sinners? Stay with us. We'll be right back. Time now for your Thursday Thankful, and today in this moment of gratitude, I'd like to say, God, thank you for drowning me in a sea of mercy and capturing me with a whale of grace. That thought is inspired by the story of Jonah. Today is a great day to read that again and put yourself in Jonah's shoes with that word. Be sure to make this a very Thankful Thursday. Remember, you can always find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at CBNNews.com. And of course, we would love to hear from you. We'd like to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing us at newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We would love to hear from you. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Be sure to make this a Thankful Thursday. We'll see you right back here, same time, same place tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.